you guys see Kappa was at TwitchCon?
Does that guy play games at all?
I
don't
felt
think
so
so.
bad for him.
Is he still employed by Twitch?
Was he employed by Twitch?
No, he's okay. Hold on, Kappa. You can't feel bad for Kappa guy. He was wearing a shirt that had a Kappa on it. He knows.
There was Craigasm guy, and I bet he got freaking stopped every 5 seconds.
I'm sure he did. That's why he went. Come on, he went there to be that guy.
With a shirt that says Kappa on it as Mr. Kappa.
He was embracing it wholeheartedly.
Look, it was probably fun for the first 2 hours, and then he was like, "All right, still."
Does he work for Twitch? Is that what he did?
I don't know.
I think he's a professional gray face, no space.
He was a Twitch employee.
Okay, he's a Twitch employee. That would make sense then.
And 2 minutes of Googling just found him on Twitter.
Oh, boy.
He's on Twitter?
He's on Twitter. He's the co-founder and CTO of Fishbowl VR, face of Twitch Kappa.
I like that he put the face of Twitch Kappa second. That shows where his priorities are.
Yes.
Maybe he meant it like face of Twitch Kappa.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Really the face of Twitch, but he is.
That's some great self-awareness. I have to give him a high five for that.
As the face of Roundtable, I want to welcome you all to the Roundtable Podcast. And I want to introduce somebody who doesn't have a face, and that man is Ohmwrecker Masked Gamer. Hi.
Hello, Bear.
We're starting the show. I don't know if you were prepared
Ready?
for our cold
ready
open.
for Mom's spaghetti.
Ooh.
Bring it on.
Different kind of gray face, no space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Josh Kappa. That's his name.
Go check out Ohmwrecker over at youtube.com/Ohmwrecker. Right? That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh. That's an old gag. We're old chums, us guys. We all know each other. Do go check out Ohmwrecker, though, over at youtube.com/maskgamer. Good stuff over there. And he's going to join us for a little bit of roundtable. And we got some cool topics on the docket today. We're going to be talking about Tony Hawk's.
We got some cool topics on the docket
We're sure
today.
darn ready to get some podcasting going for you fellas tonight.
We're going to be a jug band in a few minutes.
Drink some moonshine.
Should I go get a bottle? Am I going to blow in a bottle?
We need every single one of those bands needs the blow in a bottle guy.
Washboard, bottle, and spoons.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to be spoons?
Wait, what about a cowbell?
Cowbell's
Everything needs
important.
more cowbell.
Yeah, spoons are old hat though, man.
Absolutely acceptable.
Nobody plays the spoons anymore. They got the washboard, and now they got the actual talented, amazing banjo player. That's the one that we really need.
Yeah.
He just like immediately arranges a pop song for banjo in his head.
That guy, he's just letting all these other friends of his leech on because he knows that he's going places with those banjo skills. But he's got that buddy that plays the jug, and he doesn't want to make him feel inferior, you know, because he's a nice guy. You're not the jug guy. You're the banjo guy.
Years of practice to master the jug, Bear. Come on now.
I want jug, washboard, spoons, and then just like some New York City hipster playing like a theremin or something. Like I would totally go see that.
I've never heard of a theremin before.
A theremin it's a motion-based instrument you play with your hands.
Oh.
It's very
I guess is
motion-based.
Almost. But,
controlled without physical contact. Oh my god.
What?
It's got like an electromagnetic field or something. You put your hands in it, and based on the position, it changes the pitch and the dynamics to it.
I've seen that.
So I don't necessarily need you to open this on the show.
Yeah.
But I do just want you to look at the #1 result on YouTube for playing the jug, and just kind of watch like maybe 10 or 15 seconds of this, because this is pretty entertaining.
All right, let's all just sit in silence for 15 seconds while we
jug
this.
He opens up with a bang. Like, do not bury the lead. This is a man playing the jug.
Oh, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna allow the listeners to get the audio effect from this one, because it does look like he's just playing the jug here for a minute.
Jug off. Jugapalooza.
It actually kind of sounds like it's just dropping a bunch of juicy parts.
It really does. Oh, that bowl cut is just absolutely perfect, man. There's no other haircut I want this guy to have.
Hey, I'm not shit-talking the dude himself.
I'm just saying, that is a pure...
life choices that led him to making this video for
Wait,
YouTube.
what was the website? myspace.com/madcityjugband.
He doesn't even have a band camp?
What?
Come on, man.
I'm going there right
Jug
now.
Band Camp. Let's start it.
Space.com.
I want to go back to the theremin for a second, because this instrument was invented in 1920. Do you know how much of a fucking wizard you must have looked like playing music with the theremin back then?
Are you serious?
Russian inventor Leon Theremin patented the device in 1928.
Wow.
There are pictures of him in black and white that really do make him look like he's on stage performing magic.
Dude. I want to see there's like a 4-panel comic, and the first one's like him tinkering in his workshop. The second one is he built a theremin. The third one is he got the patent. The fourth one is he's dead on the ground because it's witchcraft.
You've written the whole thing. Anyway, hey, let's talk about the docket. We got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 coming up here on the show, and that's a whole hot mess. Oh yeah, he doesn't even say it anymore. He just shakes the coffee cup at us. We got Battletech, the new one from Harebrained Schemes, with a Kickstarter that is currently just over $400,000. So you have an exact timestamp of when this podcast was being recorded. There's that for you. Also want to talk briefly about the Beginner's Guide, which is very interesting, and I'll hold off on that for a little bit. And more of a broad conversation about the direction that games are going in general, kind of spurred by the fact that Halo 5 is not going to have a split screen feature anymore. There's quite a few new FPS games coming out that aren't going to have a single-player campaign, so we want to talk about that direction for a while as well. Going to be discussing SOMA briefly, the horror game that is shitting the pants of millions around the world. And we'll have, of course, Ask Roundtable and Nick's Weird Games, all with the delicious buttery inside of Ohmwrecker.
Yes!
That's the show. It should be good.
Buttery insight.
You guys had any bulletproof coffee yet?
What?
Bulletproof
I've never
coffee?
shot my coffee.
Bulletproof coffee. I can't
believe you haven't shot your coffee, man. That's the greatest American pastime.
Coffee plus like a half stick of butter plus coconut oil plus like some kind of brain aiding vegetable oil.
Is it activated almonds?
It's basically here's the ingredients, all right? At least 1 to 2 tablespoons of unsalted grass-fed butter per cup, by the way.
Grass-fed butter. That phrasing.
1 to 2 tablespoons. Oh, sorry. Wait, TBs is teaspoon. No, that's got to be tablespoons.
TBPS is tablespoons, and then
TBS is teaspoons?
TBS is very funny.
TBS is a television network, yeah.
TBS is very confusing.
Yeah.
1 to 2 TBs of brain octane or XCT oil. These are 18 times and 6 times stronger than coconut oil. They are not generic MCT oil, which is only about 1.6 times stronger than coconut oil.
Some kind of cannabis story that you're telling me, because I don't know what any of this is.
1 to 2 cups of hot coffee brewed with low-toxin beans, like the coffee we sell on this website, using a metal filter. And that's bulletproof coffee.
Well, that makes sense now, the bulletproof part.
I first discovered the epic rejuvenating powers of butter in yak tea while hiking at 18,000 feet of elevation near Mount Kailash.
I can't live anymore.
The saga of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is finally entering its final stage.
I can't stop now that I've started.
You have
because
to.
It just keeps getting better. I was nearly brought back to life by a creamy cup of yak tea given to me as a guest lodge.
God. There's always a story for these weirdo products.
Yep. Many tell me it's the creamiest, most satisfying cup of coffee you've ever had. That's it.
What?
Many tell you that, huh?
That's
yep.
What perspective is that written in?
Yeah, that's like fourth person, man. There's a whole fucking different dimensional plane there.
Person is when you take too much ketamine and you disconnect your central nervous system from your body, and then you write your spiel, your landing page for your affiliate marketing store.
If you weren't aware that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 came out on Tuesday, then you are not alone.
I was going to say, no one knows.
No one really did.
Idea.
Yeah, not even honestly sure Activision had their entire team aware of the situation, but Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is indeed out on consoles. I don't think a PC release was ever toyed with, much less guaranteed. The game itself, apparently, kind of a broken, clumsy mess. Lots of glitches, lots of problems with it. People recording their first impressions have been able to secure an opinion pretty easily. But what's interesting, too, is the fact that they don't seem to have sent out any review codes or review copies to anyone.
Well, first of all, it's a full $60 game that looks like it's from the PS2 era that functions.
$60?
Yeah,
$60.
That functions like a beta of a game. what's great and it's what's like. First of all, look at it. It looks horrendous. The base game had a day one patch that was bigger than the base game that was on the disc.
Yeah,
the day
7.8 gigs compared to 4.6 of the actual game file.
And it's a full price $60 retail purchase. No, thank you.
Wow.
So here's the icing on the cake of the entire ordeal. Of course, this just being a kind of garbage Tony Hawk game is not really a revolutionary story, but the contract that Activision signed with Tony Hawk, this took place, I believe, in 2002 or 2003.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so 2003, actually, I think it was, because I believe it was a 12-year contract. So
oh my God.
Think back in 2003 to how far away the year 2015 felt. And we were looking
we don't know much about the year 2015, but we do think Tony Hawk is still going to be a household name.
How old is he now?
48 or something like that. Yeah,
I'm going to Google it right now.
He's got to be, like, I'd say late 40s.
47. Hey, I was pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep,
So-
47.
So pretty much they were timing it till he was a little bit older and couldn't skate
Until they
anymore.
thought he would die of,
Yeah.
you know, this extreme lifestyle he had
The
chosen.
skating franchise died 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Bobby Kotick is like, okay, yeah, sign him for 15 years. What's the average human lifespan for you guys again? 42? All right.
We'll just throw some insurance years on there just in case. It really has become, I mean, I'm so sure of this that I'm pretty sure there's not even going to be a discussion to be had about it, is the fact that this game is a cash out for every single person involved. This is just, look, we've got another length of time left where we can probably hash out a game. It looks kind of crappy. It plays like junk. They didn't advertise it at all. Ever, anywhere. No one really knew. And the fact that it's got Tony Hawk's name on it is going to be enough for it to sell and probably make up the cost of its development. So I think this is really just a cash-out game from everyone.
I would say in this case, yeah, I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think every time, though, when a license ends, that happens.
No,
I just
no,
think
no,
back
no.
to Battle for Middle-earth 2, when EA had the rights to the Middle-earth. They did a great job with that, and then they lost the license.
Mm.
And, you know, they actually put in effort. But in this case, yeah, I think they're cashing out.
I think it's...
I feel like it's going to be idiots like us, but hopefully not specifically us. People who are like, you know, I like Tony Hawk when I was younger, and yeah, it probably sucks, but I'll get it for like a nostalgia hit. That's why I bought Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD,
I'm so
and
sorry.
I was like, this is bad. But it was also $15. This is $60. But I'm sure that there'll be people who are like, you know, they'll pick it up and be like, well, you know, what was I expecting?
Well,
I guess.
You said this is the same developer that made that, right?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
on this one. So, like, they have a bad track record, and I have to wonder what else have they developed other than that one Tony Hawk game. You know, were they free? Did they have to clear up their schedule to do this before the contract ended? Or?
If you look at their like track record, it is like Tony Hawk from 2010 to 2015. That's they did that, and then some like tie-in Infinite Runners for iOS for like the Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this looks like a mobile game, actually, which is great that they're charging $60 for that.
It really, I mean...
I love that.
I'd give it a little bit more. I'd say it looks more like an iPad game. So you're getting closer,
yeah.
but...
I
Kind of
think
the same
it
difference.
looks like a 360 game.
Wow.
Wow,
Running the
you're
whole
getting
gamut.
really high up there.
Very generous.
Of course, with all the old Tony Hawk games that everyone holds near and dear to their heart, those were all made by Neversoft, the company with the eyeball impaled by a stick, if you don't recall.
Rip.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, no longer in operation. It was like last year that they went under. A lot of their team had been absorbed. Yeah, they'd been absorbed into the Call of Duty machine, of course, because Activision kind of went that route. But it's just, the franchise itself. You remember Tony Hawk's Ride as well, right? The game with the board peripheral and all that nonsense. It's just, when you sign a 12-year deal with somebody, you can't predict 12 years of trajectory in the Tony Hawk franchise, much less the gaming sphere in general. It's just a ridiculous contract when you think about it.
Well, but here's the thing, right? There was that game Skate that actually, from what I was told, sold really well.
Yeah.
So there's still a market for skating games.
That was like a simulatory thing where Tony Hawk was like an arcade thing. So they kind of actually were different in the same space.
The last skate game was also like
2010.
2010, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember because actually we know somebody, Ben Kane, who was working on Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
Yep.
He was like an intern at EA or something when they made Skate 3. And he was like, he found it really interesting that the game started selling out in the UK like this time last year when PewDiePie was playing it on his channel.
Yeah.
He was talking to like his colleagues and be like, you know, that game we worked on 5 years ago or 4 years ago is now selling like crazy because of PewDiePie.
Yeah.
Skate's really fun. It had terrible physics, which is why it was so funny.
It was great for videos.
That's why it
yeah.
actually makes good videos because like
Right.
the wonky physics make for hilarious footage.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I was going to say is I think some YouTubers might jump on this for these glitches.
yeah, it might happen.
Possible, yeah.
So that might actually move copies.
I mean, it is
What a
possible.
weird way for that to make it successful.
I'm just waiting for Riley Hawk's Pro Skater. I think we're ready.
How old is
Tony
Riley
Hawk's
Hawk now?
Tony Hawk's son is now 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you look at Riley Hawk's Wikipedia page, I don't know anything about him. I'm not trying to fire shots.
Too late.
Riley Hawk, better known as Riley Hawk, okay, Hudson Riley Hawk, better known as Riley Hawk, is an American professional skateboarder. That one sentence has 8 citations on it. There's like,
What?
like 7 citations was not enough for Wikipedia. There's literally 8 like superscript, look at the references down here. He is a pro skateboarder.
Are you sure?
Well, you know what? Here's an article from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD that says yes, he is.
Ooh. Okay. I
He
can believe
will.
Here's
that.
an article
Wait.
from Jenkum magazine.
Wait.
What?
It says that
That
he's
is-
in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5.
Yeah, he's been in the last 2, I think.
I was gonna say, is this
Wow.
his debut or?
This is like with Will Smith and Jaden, where they do the crossover movie and then he takes off on his own.
Oh,
I believe that it is.
We do indeed have to draw that parallel. That is
We have to.
too accurate. Tony Hawk's son is a stoner, according to Vice.com. So that's good
hey,
info.
now.
Surprise,
Sorry.
surprise.
That's libel.
That's a really good headline. That draws me in as a reader. I want to read more about that.
There's only like 3 kinds of headlines on Vice. It was like, this person does drugs. The other one that they could use is like, Riley Hawk is a war criminal who should be in jail. And then we smoked a bunch of Riley Hawk in Mozambique last week.
Really hoping you would bring up the golden bongs, but you didn't.
Oh, did they do
that was a
Golden
Vice
Bong?
article.
That was,
them.
of course, that was a Vice article. Yeah, we should have known that.
I kind of like Vice, by the way, but
Yeah.
Riley Hawk looks like he's like stuck in the 90s.
Yeah, he's got the
kinda
90s
has
look.
a stoner, 90s stoner vibe.
Yeah, he does. He's very Jay and Silent Bob-ish.
Yes.
Skateboarding is kind
It's
of
coming back.
I don't know
Yeah,
why
maybe.
I expected him to look like he was.
I know,
12
right?
No, that's grunge. That's 90s grunge.
It is 90s.
Like
grunge.
Nirvana.
Yeah,
like,
it's a Kurt Cobain look, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at these. Sorry, I'm going back to the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 news now. I am looking at these screenshots. They look like somebody cut out the characters from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and put them over a different background from this new game.
Yeah.
It looks so bad,
That's
is what
I
I'm
said,
trying to say.
PlayStation 2 era, like, it looks terrible.
Is it that?
Oh, you're right. It
I
really
don't know
does
if I
look
would
like
say
they're cut out.
PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Because PlayStation 2 was pretty assy.
Yeah,
This is garbage. It looks really
Remember that
bad.
when
I don't
Nick-
say this about games very frequently. I really
No.
try to get the benefit of doubt about a game looking good, but this is bad.
Remember when Nick brought out that like PS2 launch game from software, and we looked up screenshots,
Yeah.
and we're like, "Oh, this is what the PS2 looks like."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's good to get some perspective, I think.
But he's
Okay.
skating next
Nick,
to his son
this
in
thing
this
you-
picture.
This thing you
so-
linked is there's no way this is a screenshot. This
Look,
is posed models and shit. Like,
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I wanted to show you. Look how
Oh,
different,
that's
look how different Tony Hawk looks compared to everyone else.
He looks like he's trying to push out the biggest shit of his life. And
That
that's
is
He
a
is,
positive
and it's
shot.
this game.
Pardon the lack of visual aids, but do yourself a favor and Google some images of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5
This is
because
from
you,
Forbes.
oh yeah, that's what I'm looking
They're
at.
all
Yeah,
skating down a hill, and Tony is
it's
in the
totally
bottom right
absurd. Yeah,
somebody's
Oh my God.
grinding at least.
corner. At least.
that's a
Did you know
dangerous
that,
grind, man.
You can actually skate as Lil Wayne in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
Oh baby.
Yes.
Oh
That's
man. Well, I do want to continue to take a dump on this game for the entirety of the show, but I'll I'll hold it off here. Suffice to say, it can't be anything other than we can probably make some money if we just make a game called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 and put it on store shelves.
And pray.
I wonder what the box art looks like, because I'm imagining it's going to be like Tony Hawk with the exact face he's making in this screenshot. And if you can't have the visual aid up, let me give you a replication of it if you're watching the video.
It's pretty good. It's
That's
kind of like he's asleep.
Yeah, he's napping.
He really looks extremely bored, actually. They all kind of do. They're very nonchalant about this whole skating down an 80-degree angle thing.
Do you think the $60 is to justify them getting like the Goldfinger song back in it or something? Like they had to make up for the music budget?
We need...
that was the first thing I looked at, unfortunately. It's not there.
Oh, no! What's the
soundtrack's
soundtrack?
about as good as Rock Band 4, though. Hi-yo!
Oh!
I ate a person.
All right, I gotta find out the soundtrack now, though. I gotta know if, what was that? Okay, give me your quintessential Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack songs. What do you remember most of all?
Superman. It's always good.
Superman's good, yeah.
No Cigar by Melon Collin.
I remember that one. There's the Saliva track. It's either Alive or their other song that is good. They've got the two. Full soundtrack review.
I have the list of the whole thing now.
You got the Anti-Flag.
Yeah.
New Politics up there. 4 Year Strong. Okay. I kind of like this soundtrack, actually. This looks pretty good.
Express Yourself by NWA.
Yeah, nice.
That's not on this, but it was
sold.
It was in THPS4.
Yeah,
They have Death from Above, 1979, for a little bit of that underground cred.
Okay.
Family Force 5 for that
Doom Tree's on
cred.
here. Damn. Respect to that soundtrack. Okay, they got a redeeming quality. I wanna listen to those songs now as a result of seeing them on that soundtrack list.
Buy the soundtrack, maybe.
Yeah.
Buy the game.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I did not know who Family Force 5 were, but I've looked them up. Here is the Wikipedia photo credit. From left to right, these are the members of the band. Fatty, Crouton, Soul Glow, Activator, Nadaddy, and Chapstick. Chapstick is spelled capital C-H-A-P space capital S-T-I-Q-U-E. By the way, if you're curious, they're Christian rock, but they got a little crunk rock thrown in there.
Of course.
Little crunk rock.
I want to take that
little
Facebook
crunk
quiz,
rock.
man. The Facebook quiz, which Family Force 5 member are you?
I'm Chapstick.
Oh, I'm Crouton.
Crunkcore, also called, this is so hard to say, Crunkcore, also called Crunk Punk, Screamo Crunk, Crunk Rock, and Skrunk, is a musical genre that combines crunk hip-hop with the vocal style of Screamo.
They were on Tooth and Nail Records, the same label as Under Oath and Emery. What the hell is this band?
Oh, that's, yeah, they are. They're not Christian rock, though, but they got a little bit of skrunk in them, if you know what I mean.
A little bit of skrunk crunk punk.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. This is ridiculous.
We're kind of like, I would say we're an agnostic Christian skrunk band. That's what we're experimenting with right now. Crouton, in particular, is really into
Crouton's really into it, man. Yeah, we're trying to peel him back a bit. He's a little too heavily invested in the message.
You're gonna mess up Chapstick, though. Don't do that to him.
All right.
Chapstick.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, it's out. If you love glitchy messes, then boy oh boy.
That looked
And
like
wasting
the PlayStation
$60.
2 era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all those things. Battletech by Harebrained Schemes has been announced on Kickstarter. Goal of $250,000 already crushed. In the time between when I told you the previous total that they've raised another $18,000. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah. Turn-based tactical mech combat set in a classic 3025 era. You know, not that futuristic vibe.
Back in the day, 3025.
From the creators of the Shadowrun series, of course, is Harebrained Schemes.
Did you guys ever play the original BattleTech games like Crescent Hawks?
Negative.
Inception? Okay.
There
were some BattleTech
games.
What's that?
They were not tank games. They were mech games. I'm thinking of Battlezone.
No. They were they were mech games.
Okay.
If you Google them, they came out right around the time that MechWarrior 1 came out, and then for whatever reason they got left behind. Like MechWarrior took over. That was like the big thing for fast on PC. This is them going back to those classic BattleTech type games. Because it was actually turn-based back then. It was
Oh,
pretty
really?
Cool. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
interesting.
It was turn-based combat. You'd get your turns, move your mech around, and attack the other mechs or whatever else. There was, I think, a little bit of a story, but they wanted to do something. I tuned into the live stream yesterday, and they're talking about wanting to have a in-depth like campaign, but also like really excellent turn-based combat where you could even get back to doing melee attacks and whatnot, because that melee kind of went out the window years ago, even though it's part of the lore, like the Hatchet Man mechs and stuff like that. Those will all be back. So you can, destroy dudes or other mechs with PPCs, or you could get in close and beat them to death, or jump on them with your jump jets or whatever else.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it sounds pretty cool.
Piranha
and they've
Games.
made good games.
Yeah, I should mention that my opinion may be compromised because I was paid by Hairbrain Schemes to play Shadowrun Hong Kong.
Yeah,
probably get that out of the way. But
yeah,
I mean, I also liked the game. And I feel like they've done a good job of kind of taking these old school concepts and turning them into something that's accessible for someone like me that's never really played them in the first place. So like I would be very open to playing this when it comes out. I've never been like a mech guy. I played Mech Assault, the casualized one that was like an Xbox Live. Mm-hmm. They pushed it for Xbox Live back in like 2003. But
Steel Battalion,
I have faith in this company.
Steel Battalion, that was the one that had the whole rig for it, right?
The 40-button controller, Xbox, the original Xbox.
Yeah.
I can't say Xbox One now because it is fucking
yeah.
the original Xbox.
Daredevils.
And then, of course, for the... Was it 360 or was it the Kinect one?
Yeah.
With no button controller. It's all motion controlled. And it was...
Shout out to PAX Guy if you're watching.
Yeah.
PAX Guy.
PAX Guy!
Let's go.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, but I mean, pretty consistently, they every release that Hairbrain Schemes has made from their Kickstarters has been well reviewed.
Yeah, they are definitely a Kickstarter advocate that I can get behind. Like okay, let's go ahead and run down their previous titles on Kickstarter. So of course you got Shadowrun Returns, which did tremendously well and was released and it was terrific. Shadowrun Hong Kong, another Shadowrun game on Kickstarter, went extraordinarily well.
Yeah, you forgot that.
Oh, and Dragonfall, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was Golem Arcana, which I don't know what this is actually. It's a tabletop game. Yeah, they kickstarted this. They got $500,000 actually for Golem Arcana.
Wow.
So they're branching out beyond their established successes on Kickstarter. Even.
I like board games. I don't even know what that is. I want to take a look at it.
Well, if you think about it, FASA, it doesn't really exist anymore, right? It was eventually bought out and dismantled, or is it still around?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Because Jordan Wiseman actually started FASA, and they did all sorts of stuff. Like the Battletech and MechWarrior stuff started as a tabletop game with collectibles and all that. It was almost like Warhammer in a lot of ways.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think it's very, I guess, not surprising that they went. Yeah, here we go, FASA Corp.
Yeah.
1980.
I wish I got more into turn-based mech combat games. I really should. Like it's No, it's just it's a genre that is interesting to me. I remember playing Armored Core actually back in the day. That's totally different. That's the action side of mech combat. But that was totally endearing. It's such a carnal, primitive desire to just control these big lumbering metal tank things. Like I want to destroy shit.
I plan on getting back into this one for sure. I mean, I haven't played a Battletech game forever, but this is what's probably going to bring me back to give it a shot, see how it plays and all that. I mean, I'm not sure yet if I want to kickstart anything more than maybe a tiny bit. Like the original Shadowrun, I gave them, I think it was $250, and that's because I was totally stoked for it. I remember the Shadowrun games prior, like the Genesis. Did you guys play the Shadowrun on Genesis?
I played the Super Nintendo version, but I was like 5 or 6, so I did not have an appreciation for it.
Yeah,
you didn't write a blog post about it?
No, sorry.
Well, and then they had the Shadowrun game on Xbox too. It was one of the first cross-platform games, actually Windows and Xbox. But
the 360?
No.
The one that was multiplayer?
Yeah, 360. Yeah,
the multiplayer one.
First-person shooter.
Yeah, that was a weird game. I remember thinking the concept was really cool, but the execution was mediocre. It wasn't bad. Yeah. It was just not great.
For someone on the outside, I found it to be kind of diluting of the brand. Like, I didn't know what this was in the first place, and then making it a first-person shooter with class stuff, like, I didn't really know what it is at all.
Yeah, it was a weird game, but yeah, I was totally stoked about that, and yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I really hope they hit the PvP tier, but the tiering, sometimes I worry a little bit about Kickstarters, the way that they dangle carrots for the stretch goals and all that.
Yeah. Save Shenmue.
Whatever happened? Did that get fully funded?
Oh yeah,
I'm sure it did. Yeah.
Okay, but they've got PvP multiplayer at 2.5 million. So I mean, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot.
I think they. We were just talking about how they're pretty well established on Kickstarter. I think they, of all companies, probably have a good idea of what they can achieve. And I think they've got a good thing going here. Obviously, I mean, just in the first couple of hours, they're already up to nearly $430,000. So they'll probably hit it.
Okay, they're already that far.
Yeah, this is day one. Like, it just launched.
They'll be all right.
I feel like that's like I hesitate to say this because of the way that it comes across, but if there's any company that's kind of earned trust on Kickstarter, it's probably them.
Yes.
Because they've been using it for so long and actually delivering pretty much what they set out to deliver.
Yeah, they are pretty much the poster child of gaming on Kickstarter.
Well, also the guys, Larian Studios, Divinity Sin, they've done a good job with Kickstarter stuff. Brian Fargo actually delivered a decent game with Wasteland 2.
Of course, Broken Age came around too, so we have that.
You said Larian already?
Yeah, so there's some devs who have definitely delivered. There's also some that didn't. I mean, Planetary Annihilation.
We will call individual attention to those people, hopefully.
Start calling them out right now.
Yeah. And here's my prepared list of Kickstarter failures that I'd like to get my money back on.
Yeah.
Oh, don't even, I will no. We all know who I would talk about.
Yeah. Well, the spiritual successor to Syndicate, that just came out.
Oh, did it?
Satellite Rain. Yeah. I've been meaning to play through it.
I played like an hour and a half of it, and I was like, this is pretty good.
It is, it was.
It's beyond my mental capacity for the most part, but it is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who made I know FTL was a Kickstarter and it was a really good fucking game, but is he doing anything else, or has he even announced he's doing anything else at all?
I talk to them once in a while. I think they're working on something new.
It's all like wrapped up.
Yeah, well, I think that he told me he regretted using Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah, because he said as an indie dev, it's just him and his buddy. Yeah. And he said that it put so much pressure on them, and they went from like being fully in control of their game to having all these expectations from fans.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a lesson board of directors, more or less, right?
Right. Yeah. So lots of expectations, tons of feedback. They just wanted to make the game they wanted to make.
Yeah.
And I get the impression that whatever they're making next, like, they're not going to use crowdfunding for it. FTL was insanely successful for them.
Yeah, so it was excellent.
I can't even imagine. Like, it's so weird to look back on their Kickstarter campaign, and they asked for $10,000.
Yeah,
yeah,
and they're feeling pressure about that.
The next game,
they made $200,000, which is not. And then it was like exceeded beyond those expectations, beyond like even your most optimistic ones.
Well, looking at Kickstarter as a whole, of course, you're going to have those 1 or 2 man teams that are going to feel a tremendous amount of pressure if they happen to get a bunch of eyes on their campaign. But then there's things like Hairbrain where they don't have to worry about that because they've already planned this all out. Like, they have everything that they've set rewards for is probably already orchestrated completely, and they've done all the preemptive legwork for it. So it's
plus they have a team. They they got somebody that can help manage community interaction, stuff like that. It's not just
which people undervalue, I think, is the idea of getting somebody who can handle all that community-driven shit. Like, it takes up a good portion of your time. If you're a 1 or 2 man team and you want to keep that up, you're going to be losing out on a lot of time to actually do your development.
Yeah, well, think about us being YouTubers or streamers or whatever else. I mean, managing our communities, our all the emails we get, all the comments and everything else. Twitch streams, when you're streaming, you got all the people in chat, trying to engage with you. It takes a ton of work.
Absolutely.
I feel like Hairbrained is actually like one of those companies that I think has like 8 people, but might actually have like 100 now. Because they've been doing the Shadowrun thing. Who knows if they're going to do like a Dragonfall for Hong Kong. But then they have Battletech, and then they have Necropolis, which is the game Mathis has been telling me about.
I really like it.
It's a character action game. And then they have Golem Arcana. And then they have whoever, manages community stuff and, HR or office managers or something like that. Like these guys are like.
Well, actually, I paused the video at 64. Wait, no, that's not possible. It can't be 64. Pretty much like whatever I paused their Kickstarter video at, it showed their team.
They have about 25 people on their team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
that's like when we were talking about Platinum Games last year, and we're like, how are they making like 10 games at the same time? They have 40 people.
Oh, these guys are in Seattle. I should totally go say hi.
They probably have really good developers. I mean, studios, you know, just like any other company, if you've got good people, you can, you know, operate things a lot more efficiently. And these guys have been, you know, they've pretty much mastered the art of making games at this point, especially with Jordan. I mean, he's been doing it since the early 80s. You know, very
Jordan
competent
Weisman.
developer. Yes.
I like
Grizzled game designer, it says.
It's just in his bio on the actual Hairbrain Schemes website. It just says, in parentheses, says grizzled blah blah blah, made lots of games blah blah blah. He's no longer out there to impress anybody. He's just doing what he does.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, that is Battletech. You do not need to support it. Luckily, if you are somebody interested in this game, because it's totally going to happen, unless you want to see the higher tiers come through. But Kickstarter is going to be running for a while. Should be going through November actually. So plenty of time.
And he said that they were aiming for a 16-month dev cycle, so it wouldn't be out for a while. But
that's what I love to hear.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I want to see
actually
like take their time.
Yeah, take your time, and also use words like 16-month dev cycle, so that I think that you've actually talked about it. And like
the word cycle in particular just makes it sound like, oh yeah, they've got a thorough plan for this.
And you know what? Even the word cycle just implies they've done it.
Don't give me a target release date.
Yeah.
I want to just know that you're working on the game, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like a day. Just tell me a day.
So then you can get really mad. Okay, and be like, I'm so mad you didn't.
No, tell me a day and then delay it later on.
2017. Be
there.
there.
Sure. They're saying May 2017. There you go.
You give me something.
Wow. I've lost a lot of confidence because that's not 16 months. That's 16 months from January. So calls it all into question as far as I'm concerned.
I don't believe him anymore.
If you can't trust them, if you can't trust everything they say, you can't trust anything.
Well, okay. To be fair, their campaign ends November 3rd, and they said they had 1 or 2 more months pre-production to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right,
there you go.
Davey Redden, Davey Redden, W-R-E-D-E-N, Davey Redden.
Yes.
Developer of the Stanley Parable has announced his new game, The Beginner's Guide. It's a first-person narrative video game for Mac and PC. I don't know.
It's a first-person narrative game, Mathis.
Yes. Sweet.
Before we get too bent out of shape about not knowing what it is, we should point out that it comes out before the podcast.
So we will know what it is by the time you're watching
it's coming out that quickly?
It's coming out the day before this episode goes up. But it was announced the day this episode is being recorded. So this is exactly the problem with our podcast.
What you're saying is it was a 2-week dev cycle.
Yeah.
No.
Is this the new Five Nights?
Nice.
I applaud.
Five Nights is basically just a narrative video game, right?
Wouldn't it be great if it came out though and it was the new Five Nights?
No, this is Frog Fractions too. We've been waiting for this.
The joke I was thinking about.
Look, I mean, not to tangent off, but Shower with Your Dad Simulator is kind of like Frog Fractions 2 in that it is not like it just branches off into the most bizarre shit.
That could probably be Frog Fractions 2, right?
Wait,
everything you just said.
You're saying there's more to it than just mini games.
There's you know how Frog Fractions is like mini games that lead into like a weird, bizarre story of different mini games.
Yeah. Don't spoil it though.
Exactly what Shower with Your Dad Simulator is. It's like, oh, this is like a cash in. I'm like, this is gonna be a silly one-off video, and then I'm playing it, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. There's a lot here that I didn't expect.
Wow.
It's interesting. But anyway, continue.
Like, now it's time to teach you about fiscal responsibility, Sean.
What threw us off was using the word simulator, because we've gotten so freaking put into the belief that simulator means it's like a surface level vapid game that doesn't have
You know what? You're probably right. If that game was just called Shower with Your Dad, I would probably get it.
Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity.
Adding simulator in the year 2015 to the title is like, yeah,
it's a meta statement at that point. You're actually critiquing game development when you add simulator to your game if you do something like that.
Well, the full title of the game is Shower with Your Dad Simulator 2015. Do you still shower with your dad?
Right.
It's long.
No, sounds like you took it very seriously.
Yeah.
Do you still shower with your dad, Mathis?
That is a question that'll be answered in the video.
What about in this podcast?
No.
Oh.
But anyway, I'm excited. Well, if it's coming out in 2 weeks, I really liked the Stanley Parable.
Coming out in 2 days, so you should be even more excited.
Well, what do you?
By the time you finish talking, it'll be out.
Yeah.
Are there any hints as to what it's?
There's a few screenshots. That's what we've got. So, and it is about what you'd expect from screenshots from the game too. They are just like Okay, let me try to describe.
Can you link them?
No, no way.
You know what? Like, I don't know if anybody feels cynical about this, but I'm like super not cynical about this.
I'm not.
Because I know that he did the whole like convention thing for the Stanley Parable. I can't even imagine what that's like to walk people through like a 10 to 15 minute demo of the Stanley Parable 1,000 times over the course of a weekend at PAX on like a super crowded show floor. You know, it's like, hey, this is like my life's work. And then someone comes over and is like, I don't really get it. So maybe that didn't happen, but that's my worst case scenario for what happens. He made, you know, $1 quadrillion on the Stanley Parable. If he wants to skip the media cycle for this and just come out with it, that's awesome.
Let me try to
Five Nights at Freddy's. It'll work for him.
I'll be honest. Well, Five Nights was so hyped, but I'll be honest. I kind of prefer when good games come out with not a whole lot of hype because I feel like there's a lot of games that I enjoy less because of all the hype and build up and marketing stuff that hits before it comes out.
Destiny.
Yeah.
It's a really good example. I'm not saying it out of spite. Like, that's an example of a game that hyped the shit out of and people were just more cynical about it.
Yeah.
So let me try to... I'm going to try to describe some of these screenshots.
Can you link us the screenshots?
There's a Rock, Paper, Shotgun article. I actually can't do it. I would do it if I could normally.
Whatever,
I don't want to be a dick. But
the article.
There's a few screenshots, and I just want to try to describe them because that is about how I think the game will feel anyway. I think this description of the game that I'm going to give based on these screenshots is probably going to be pretty accurate once the game actually comes out. So we'll see if I'm right about this. So we've got the first screenshot. It's just an abstract of trees growing in weird ways. So we've got just trees that jut out and actually just exist on whiteness. So I don't know what to think about that. We also have a screenshot of a, looks like a barn.
That looks like a restaurant.
Does it? Yeah, that might be a restaurant,
tables
actually, yeah. Yeah, you're probably right about that. But it's encased in white. So it's kind of a minimalist feature of a barn-style restaurant. That's what we got. And then we'll do one more here. We've got a man with a Rubik's Cube for a head.
No, it's like dice with different words.
Just kind of a dice, yeah.
And he's got like the textureless body beneath him.
Right. And behind him
super cool.
is a door that appears to have been crookedly taped on with masking tape that leads to outer space.
Just reads as stone to me.
Yeah, I see that as stone.
Oh,
You're
stone.
terrible at this.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing a bad job describing these screenshots.
A barn restaurant.
Outer space,
Cube.
that is.
Actually, it's just dice.
That is
that old
Billings,
Rubik's
Montana.
Cube with one colored square per cube face.
All right, I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't describe screenshots.
Six-sided Rubik's Cube.
I did a bad job.
Look at the bottom one, though. There's just like a facade of a part of a building floating in some sort of vacuous blue space with sort of like a pipe dream
Nick,
design.
Why weren't you doing this the whole time?
Because I had to find them because you couldn't link them to me. That's why.
That was way better.
What I'm getting from this, like a beginner's guide to creation or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm thinking. Like a beginner's guide to creating a game or something.
But it's so different. Every screenshot just has so much variety. I have no idea what's going on. There's no consistency.
I'm in. I'll be streaming this game.
Yeah. No, I'm probably day one.
I love
want
the
to see
Stanley
this.
Parable, so I'm in.
Interesting.
I am very willing to blindly trust Davey Redden.
I've seen a lot of screenshots that, like, I can generally now say, like, does this look like something I would care to play? And I believe this would probably be interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that of another game recently, though. And, Nick, I bet you played it, actually.
Oh, if you say the Albino Lullaby,
Yep,
that one was not
that's
so
the
good.
one. Yeah, Albino
Not
Lullaby.
so good.
Oh, is that the It's kind of like horror game.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of potato heads chasing you around a mansion that kind of morphs. I'm sorry to say it, but it was kind of clunky, and it like broke at the end of the game too.
I heard it was terrible, and it's just a walking simulator.
It wasn't that. It was. It started out that way, but eventually you find this thing that lets you interact with the enemies, and then it's sort of a stealth game, but it's really slow and kind of weirdly paced. And then the mansion starts to break up and do weird stuff, and then it just sort of all falls apart. And they were going for something much bigger, and I think it's an episodic game, so they're probably trying to pace out what they give you for story details. But in the first episode, I gave it like 2 hours. I was more annoyed with it than enjoying myself by the end of it.
That seemed like to be like just a common opinion of the game. People just didn't like it very much.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. It seemed like it had potential. But you're right, Bear. That was totally one that I misjudged based on the screenshots.
Yeah, but I mean, we've got at least a basis for this one now. It's the Stanley Parable guy, and it looks fucking weird. It's probably going to be really good.
Hopefully.
That is promising.
You get to find out soon.
Well, we'll know. That's the great part about the future.
We already
know already. Yeah,
we already know.
I like future.
I appreciate when games exempt themselves from the media cycle so that assholes like us don't talk about them.
This is what happens when we're left to speculation.
Exactly. I'm like, it's cool. I prefer it this way. Like we've already talked about this many times. The whose responsibility is hype? Is it the player's responsibility? Is it PR? Is it the developer? But I like the approach of basically just like, I'm just going to make this and not worry about selling it because I don't have to worry about selling it. And then it'll just come out and then nobody has to worry about it. Nobody's going to be like, oh, I was super hyped for this for 2 days and then it sucked. Right? Like, There's no way
pedigree,
right? With it.
They can go, well, I can't believe this was made by the same guy that made the Stanley Parable. Like, you can still let people down in that way.
You're right. There's no getting away from that, though. That's
this
he changes his name.
I'm looking at this like in comparison to how Mike Bithell approached his sophomore effort. So this is the second game from Davey Redden, and it's going in, I think, or from what I can tell, a pretty similar direction to his first game. But in contrast, he did not do any sort of marketing. Whereas with Mike Bithell, I'm not trying to say, by the way, that any method is correct or anything like that. I'm just observing. With Mike Bithell, he made Thomas Was Alone, which was kind of a, I think I'd classify them both as kind of cult hits, with Thomas Was Alone being so abstract and then, like, obviously the Stanley Parable being what it is. But, of course, with Mike Bithell's decisions, he marketed Volume very heavily, and then Volume was just an entirely different game. And it's the only reason I'm even comparing these two is because they're both in pretty similar positions as developers, where Redden can basically just do what he wants, and Mike Bithell kind of could as well. Mike kind of went more of the, I guess, business sound approach of getting more professionals involved, having a big marketing campaign, and doing all the things you generally need to do for a game to sell pretty well. And then you've got this, which is just a guy who clearly prioritizes his ability to just create what he wants to make and just do wacky shit over, I need to make more money, I need to make more money in order to further push my creative pursuits. So, again, it's just two totally different approaches, but it's so interesting to see that from those people, those very unique people who are in a position where they have the freedom to decide that whether or not it's for better or for worse.
Well, I will say this. I feel like this game has more potential to essentially sell itself because it just, for example, these screenshots that we're seeing, like, it makes us very curious about what is this? Yeah. Versus Volume, I felt like just visually, it wouldn't have been as intriguing if you were just seeing screenshots of.
Yeah, and Volume was sold to me on name recognition, people involved, and trailers. Yeah. Those are the big three selling points. And then for here, as you mentioned, basically the only thing drawing our attention is a few screenshots and a vague description of the game.
Yeah, it's just like, what the hell is this?
Like, I think it's really helpful to have sort of a vague genre, and when it's just a first-person narrative exploration type of thing, it can be really anything. But if you start nailing something down and quantizing it with it's a stealth action game with a narrative point to it as well, like, you know what you're going to get into with that, and it's very easy to connect the dots if you played a lot of games. When you see a screenshot, you go, all right, I see exactly how the mechanics are going to work before I've even touched the controller.
Right. The Beginner's Guide. We'll know more in due time.
After you do.
Right. Next up is an interesting conversation topic. So, this is spurring from an article I read on VG247. It's that Halo 5 will not be utilizing split screen because, according to Phil Spencer, the vast majority of Xbox Live players are not using split screen, which is totally understandable. We've heard similar things about single-player campaigns in first-person shooters. The data agrees that most people don't care about them. Most people don't care about split screen or single-player campaigns. They're just interested in playing multiplayer online. And I think there's probably a bit more uproar coming out of this than there needs to be. I think it's a lot of people kind of just fearful of the things they grew up with dying off. But there is an interesting discussion to be had here for sure. So the general idea is split screen, single player campaigns, out the window. No longer relevant, basically.
Not in all cases, but a lot of games, I think, they're just saying let's do away with that stuff.
I don't think I mind it, honestly. I'm embracing this new future. I think the sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
The split screen thing existed, of course, before the internet. So that was built to solve a problem that existed that was solved in a much better way later on down the road. And obviously, without local split screen, you've got, the removal of some of the more nostalgic elements. Like for Halo in particular, I remember fondly, playing split screen single player campaign with a friend and doing the freaking ghost races at the end of Halo 3, I think it was, where you're flying off and everybody's flipping around and it's awesome. But it's not a high priority or a high enough priority to divert resources to it. And I wish I knew more about how much that actually takes up in a development cycle. But I guess if it's big enough to where they want to axe it and make room for other better improvements, I think I'm okay with separating myself from my nostalgia goggles for a minute there and saying, you know what? If this makes the game better, I don't want split screen anymore. I think I can give that up, especially considering I no longer have any friends that would come over to my house and play games with me.
Stop there. You gotta stop right there.
It's kind of a changing of the guard in a way, right? I mean, it's the newer generation going, well, we never really had this in our past, so we don't have fond memories or we don't really care. And it's not really convenient anymore. And, well, really the only problem it would solve these days, if you are in that situation where you have a friend over and now they're going to have their own system most likely and they'll bring it with them, right? So that's really the only case where that actually matters. And, people like us who grew up playing games like GoldenEye and things, we generally are just in our rooms playing games on the internet now. So what's the big fuss? I mean, it seems like it matters, and I think a lot of us are just going, man, but I really don't want to live in a world where we don't have that fond memory or that people in the future won't have that fond memory. But at the same time, it's just the reality, and we're just kind of clutching onto a thing that might not happen anyway.
And thinking about it, too, like every time I've gone to play video games with someone at their house, it's been a LAN party. So I'm bringing my own equipment anyway because it's better, and we all usually have the stuff. I mean, online multiplayer, of course, as I mentioned, is kind of just making it so the local split screen is basically becoming obsolete. And there is just such a small contingency of people who are trying to latch onto that. And it's making me wonder if the argument is legitimate or if it's just people that don't want to let it go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm of two minds about it.
Mm-hmm.
One is I have a tendency to agree with you guys as someone who, I live with my wife. We don't play split screen games really. We can play stuff over Steam together or whatever. But I also grew up as an only child and thus have very little split screen experience. But what if you're 12 and your mom buy you one Xbox?
Right.
You have a brother.
That's the one situation out of the 100.
There's a lot of people like that out there, but also at the same time, I do feel that a lot of people are like, well, what is split screen takes no resources. You just draw a line down the center of the screen, right? Mm-hmm. It's not obviously really how that works.
Right.
I've heard it's very resource intensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not the equivalent of rolling like 2 instances of the game at the same time. But I imagine that it's a lot more resource intensive. And in particular, if you're looking at like the Halo franchise, that's probably something that basically however they can get it to actually work is probably like, let's focus on that first, and then everything that's kind of like the gravy on top of that.
Oh, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they should probably prioritize actual functional gameplay above this stuff.
Well, and they might already be straining like the Xbox One as is, where, you know, if they try to do split screen, it's like they're pushing it, you know, performance will decline, whatever else.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Like, if they could if they could ensure, you know, more consistency in FPS and better performance by eliminating split screen. If you pose that question to the people that are trying to latch onto split screen, I bet a lot of them would say, oh yeah, give me better performance and I'll lose split screen. That's fine.
Yeah.
Then people will
and a better looking game.
Yeah.
Why don't you like well, for a split screen, why not just like basically have like a implicit like options menu that is like, okay, take it from like single player quality down to like shitty quality. But it's not really.
They did that actually in Turok, I think, on the N64, the one that took the expansion pack. I remember there was like a low res mode when you played split screen.
Wow.
It actually happens automatically in Mario Kart 8. When you do split screen 2 players, it stays at 60 FPS, no problem. Once you break it into 3 or 4 players, it goes down to 30 FPS.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, too, that just because Halo takes it out, I mean, think about all the other games that you could still play with friends on the couch. You know, you got, you mentioned Mario Kart, you got the Super Mario World, or, you know, Brothers.
Rocket League.
New Super Mario 3D
Smash
World.
Brothers.
Yes. I mean, there's still a whole bunch of different games you could play with friends locally.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because, like, I've gotten a little older, but, like, the idea of, like, if Bear was like, come over to my house and we'll play, like, split screen Rocket League, I would actually rather you just play and I watch.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I play split screen games now, maybe it's just because I'm spoiled by having my own monitor and my own TV.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do it. I'd rather actually just watch you have, like, the full experience, but...
Well, it's like when we were younger, man, we would go over to our friend's house to play video games because, like you said, we didn't have the internet now.
Yeah.
Like we do now.
Or we didn't have the console, and there was just one kid that had the console.
But now that, like, you know, we're older and stuff, and I can play online with my friends, I don't really go to my friend's house to play video games. I go over to hang out or watch something or, you know, go out for, like, a beer or whatever.
Play Magic.
Stuff. I mean, that's very, very
You're actually
true.
making me think again that maybe we are just the out-of-touch demographic here. So perhaps there are still the kids at that age going over to play split screen with their friends. But I seriously doubt it because they're all on their
because
computers.
they all have the internet. They all have internet now. So, like, even if as long as their friend has a console in the same game as well, they don't have to go over to each other's house to play split screen because they can just stay at home, which... when we were 12, I had the same game that you had. It didn't matter because I still have to go over to play at your house. You still have to come over to my house to play because we couldn't connect online. I remember the first online game I played was Direct Connect through dial-up for Warcraft 2.
Oh, yeah.
And how difficult that was when I'd be, you know, calling my friend's computer and his mom would pick up and I'd hear his mom through my computer speakers being like, hello? And I'm like, no, we're trying to play a game. Like that was like the basics of it back then. Not anymore.
That was a nightmare. I hated that. I was trying to play freaking Marathon with my friend, and I had a Mac and they had a PC, and it just wouldn't work. Like, I don't know why that matters. It's the same internet signal.
Yeah, but they don't have the kids these days. They don't have that issue. They can they have internet Wi-Fi.
Back in my day, I had to hook up my
Grandpa Bear
internet line directly to my friend's face, and that was the only way we could play local.
We'll talk about Soma later, Bear.
No spoilers, please. Thank you.
The one other thing I wanted to mention is it's funny to see how this is kind of going away in the AAA space, whereas in the indie game space, it seems like it's only getting bigger and more prevalent. That split screen is sort of being revived and talked about with this nostalgic air, right? I mean, it seems like more times than not, we get indie game review builds that are like, well, does this have online? Nope, just local.
Well, but local and split screen are two different things as well. Like, a lot of the indie stuff we get that's local is like same
screen.
Right. Sports Friends, you know, Brawlhalla, it actually has online play, obviously. Gang Beasts, stuff like that. Like, that all takes place on one screen, which I do think it's important to separate it because the local versus online debate has been dragged out for years now in both directions. But I did continue.
I'm also not trying to equivocate and say that because they're indie or something like that, they should be expected to have the budget to be able to code online multiplayer. It's not simple. But I wonder how often that is like actually a decision they made intentionally versus their budget just doesn't allow it, right? Like that they want to promote community of people playing their game in the same room because they want that kind of vibe around their game versus they just didn't have the ability.
Yeah, man, I'm wishing we could get somebody. Actually, I'm gonna have to ask around and see if maybe we can get somebody that's had some experience at the AAA level doing split screen stuff, because I didn't even think about there's got to be that debate happening pretty frequently, right? Just about whether or not it's worth it. It must be. I mean, obviously, it depends on the title, right? I mean, like with Halo in particular, which is the game that's spurring this whole conversation, that they probably divert tons of resources into making a split screen that functions properly and also, cooperates with up to 4 people. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, objectively and just speaking at a brass tacks level, you can't really look at this and see the numbers that I'm sure they're seeing of just the very, very small minority that is probably a loud minority all the same, but they aren't worth it anymore. I'm sorry.
And they'll probably still buy the game anyway.
Yeah.
What is Call of Duty doing these days for split screen?
Oh, they just check the split screen button in the Activision protocol.
Simple.
Yeah, it's easy. But
I also, I mean, it's very tempting to put this in like widespread sweeping, trends. It doesn't necessarily have to be put in that perspective. It is better for us, I guess.
I think Halo holds enough water to be pretty. It's not like a flagship where it's going to be like everybody follow along in suit of Halo. They're setting the course, but it's pretty noteworthy that they are making this call.
Well, I don't know though, because we'll see how the reaction goes. I most of the time try not to say like, well, this game's doing this, so this is how it's going to be forever. But we have also seen like. I think the more interesting discussion, I guess, because I just don't care about split screen, is the single player versus multiplayer thing that has come up for Evolve, and it's come up for what's the other Titanfall. That's the other one I was thinking of. Thank you. Yeah. That was we're basically just gonna like focus on multiplayer, and I think that has had a backlash to it that I guess I wouldn't have expected. Like I think that's more interesting because
Evolve. I'm very curious if it would have affected Evolve, because I feel like we can't really judge Evolve having failed because of that. I feel like Evolve failed because of the horrendous DLC plan.
Well, did Evolve fail, though?
Yeah, that's another question, I think, actually.
And also wasn't Battlefront also?
To Steam Spy.
Wasn't Battlefront also following the same format?
Yeah, I think it was.
There's actually like 4.1 million units of Evolve on Steam.
Yeah, see?
I don't think it failed.
It's just Steam. That's multi-platform, And they had
I'm not surprised that it sold a lot. I'm curious how many players there are now, less than a year after its release.
It failed like Tomb Raider did to Capcom.
I loved Evolve. I had a ton of fun with it. The only reason I stopped playing was because my friends got disinterested, and also that they weren't releasing monsters fast enough or new characters.
So peak concurrent players of Evolve yesterday was 691, which is not a lot.
It doesn't mean it's not a success, though.
No, I'm sure it sold, like you said, it sold really well, and I'm sure Titanfall sold really well. I guess I use the word failure a little too loosely. What I mean is, like maintaining.
By the way, Titanfall has 0 hours played on Steam.
Well, yeah.
I mean, like. Sustained interest. It sold well because the premise and the hype behind it was good, and the initial reviews, I believe, were good. It was the DLC plan that followed, that came right after, that beat it to the ground. And I'm curious how popular it remained for how long before, much like Titanfall, the first couple of weeks of Titanfall, I'm sure tons of players were playing it, and then it just dropped off and died.
Yeah. Well, you need variance in gameplay or something else that hooks you in. And, for example, Counter-Strike Go, it seems like people want to keep playing that in a lot of circles that I've been hanging out in because they've got this big investment in their skins.
Yeah.
And they just want to keep playing that game because, just so much money that they've generated or built up or unlocked or whatever else. But for games like Titanfall and stuff, there was really no ongoing hook for it. Like once you played every map, and it was a fun game. I liked it, but it got kind of boring. Like after a while, like you had everything unlocked, you had all your burn cards. Like there was, other games were coming out, so they just pulled me away.
I also harp on this a lot, but for multiplayer specific stuff, I feel like there's like a community confidence element that factors into it. So for Counter-Strike Global Offensive, it took a while to get that community confidence. People were like, Hidden Path, they soiled it, and it's like, it's not going to be good. But then Valve kind of like saved it. And now people aren't afraid to spend 500 or 1,000 hours in Counter-Strike Global Offensive because they're going to be able to use that skill that they get for a while. It's like League or Dota. Like if you put 1,000 hours in League, there will always be people to play League with. There's always going to be people to play Dota with. Whereas I think the way that it went for kind of Evolve was like, this game looks really cool. It's designed around the multiplayer element. But then they started they soured the pot a little bit with like the DLC stuff, and people started to pull back. Right. And as soon as the community starts to like retract even before release, people are like, well, why would I buy like a multiplayer only game where it seems like people aren't really committed to it? Like I could put 200 hours in this, and then those skills are like wasted in a way. Like if it's going to be multiplayer focused, I think there has to be almost, for a lot of players, like a pseudo-competitive kind of like persistent aspect to it. Skins could be one thing like that, but also just the idea that there's always going to be like people to play with, I guess.
They can succeed geometrically or they can fail geometrically, and I sort of had the same feeling back when WoW was a new thing. Like, do I want to play an offline MMO, or I could be playing it, or do I want to be playing an offline RPG rather, or do I want to be playing an online MMO where my time spent will actually be reflected in a way where other people can interact with me? Right. So like I care more about the time I spend IRL because there's other things outside of that world. Whereas if I just played Fable by myself, I'm the only one that cares about that.
Yeah.
And do you even? In particular with Fable. I don't know. I hate Fable. Sorry, I just I really didn't like Fable.
Did you know Albion Online is not a Fable MMO?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Oh, that's interesting.
It has nothing to do with Fable.
Albion Online is like, they're trying to make a new Ultima Online, essentially. But they still have some care. I know people don't like when you say Care Bear with MMOs, but honestly, that's kind of what happened to MMOs. But
yeah, they became theme park.
Yeah, Ultima Online was like the hardest core hardcore you could get for the longest time. Yeah. Until they introduced something called Tremel. And then all of a sudden it was like, here's a safe zone where everyone can go if you don't want PvP. And they took away that risk element. And Albion Online is trying to create a world where there's a heck of a lot of risk. Like, if you die, all your shit drops on your body.
That's how it was in that's how it was in Ultima.
Yeah. And there are safe zones, but once you start venturing out to, other cities and whatnot, like, you can get ganked, like, just walking down this, the path. And by 5 dudes who just, kill you and take all your stuff. So, it's interesting.
Sounds frustrating to me.
I like that stuff. I like
I do too.
Like the super hardcore approach, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Well, on that bright note, let's talk about something even happier, perhaps.
Yes.
How about SOMA?
I loved it.
Horror game. It's out on Steam right now. Sci-fi horror from Frictional Games, the team behind Amnesia: The Dark Descent, of course. I get creeped out just looking at this thing.
I'm loving SOMA. I'm not done with it yet. This is a disclaimer. By the time this video goes live, I'll probably be finished. I'm from what Nick says, I'm near the end. But what I like about SOMA a lot is that it's a lot less like boo in your face scary, and it's a lot more atmospheric, like
that's what I've been hearing
horror.
primarily. Yeah.
Yeah, and the story. Like, I keep wanting to play just because the story is actually so good, and I want to know what is going on and why things are happening. And every time they make a reveal, you're still left with questions, and you want to keep pursuing to figure out. My only complaint about the game, and it's very, very, very minor, is it has a lot of dead space in that you're supposed to go from A to B, but before you can get to A to B, you have to fix X, Y, and Z. It's like, I need to go down to, Theta Station, but I gotta fix the Zeppelin before I can go. It's broken. I gotta engineer it and fix it.
Very point-and-click adventure in that way. They put obstructions in your way constantly, and I understand why, because it makes a lot of sense theme-wise. But after a while, you start to get taken out a little and go, I'm a player of this game, and I realize what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, lots of games do that though.
Lots of games do that.
When I was playing, I played the whole thing live, like the final 6 hours. I didn't know it was going to be 6 more hours. I started to stream.
Me either.
I'm going to try to finish this. I think I'm maybe an hour or two away. So I'm going to play through the whole thing, assuming it doesn't take 6 hours, and it took 6 hours. So anyway, but while I was playing it, as those obstacles kept coming, and it's like, and everything keeps going wrong. It actually, maybe I'm remembering Dead Space wrong, but it felt like Dead Space was very much the same, in that even Dead Space 1 and 2, every time I thought I was going to make some significant progress or, I was close to the next point, a whole bunch of shit went wrong, and I got rerouted, and I had to go do all this other stuff. And it feels like just lots of games. Even when you think back to Doom, I mean, you always go on to key hunts, to find frickin' keys.
Yeah.
In the classic Doom, it's like game devs always seem to do that as I don't know if it's meant to keep you in the game longer, to give you more playtime or what, but devs tend to want to reroute us.
The way they structured it, I had to believe that they built a lot of the stations before they put together what happens between them. So it started to make me think, like, you're trying to send me to a bunch of these positions just to open the next area. And that makes sense. I understand why they do it. And it drastically increased the playtime of the whole thing, which I'm of two minds about, because I actually really liked it, but at the beginning it was a little bit slow, so it took a while for me to get invested in the story enough to care. And by that point, obviously, I was not going to quit, because I needed to know the resolution of this. I was like 10 hours in.
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
One major criticism I have of SOMA is that Mathis, this isn't really a spoiler, I don't think, but ultimately you come to one conclusion,
I'm afraid.
It actually spelled something out for me that I didn't know, but go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to say that. Okay, anyway, but you
gotta be really careful, man.
Yeah, but I really wish that there are maybe some loose ends, and I feel that I would have loved to have known more about certain things. But beyond that, I wish that there were a whole bunch of endings. I think this would have been a perfect game for a bunch of different endings.
So
I thought there might have been, considering the way the last area goes. Sorry, Derek.
How walking sim is it? How, on a scale of 1 to 10?
Pretty walking simmy.
Yeah.
I want to spell one thing out, and I think I was maybe a little bit misdirected by the marketing of the game. I think it's like 75% a sci-fi game and 25% a horror game. I think it really is more a sci-fi narrative than it is a horror game, although there are some spooky parts, but I wasn't ever terrified.
No, that was going to be my only other complaint about the game. Not that it's not spooky, it's that the monster encounters in the game are more annoying than they are anything else. I'm like, I want to get past the monster encounters as quickly as I can so I can continue to explore and check things out and figure out what's going on and mess around with things. Because when the monsters show up, a lot of the time they're pretty dumb. They have some of them have some weird abilities that just make them a little bit scary, and they get me. I'm really bad with jump scares, and they'll still get me every once in a while. But once they get the first spook on me, I'm just like, all right, I want to get past this part. I want to see more. I want to see the rest of what the game is. Where Amnesia was very much the opposite. And I'd say it's equal part. Amnesia is as much a walking simulator, I guess, as SOMA is.
I was actually gonna say I kind of had a similar experience playing Amnesia. I was gonna say
Amnesia was scarier to me, but
it was scarier. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't have the comparative aspect, obviously, but Amnesia was definitely scary for me. But the monster encounters in Amnesia were kind of a hindrance, honestly. Maybe it's because I'd been a little spoiled by the amount of. Or the length of time the game had already been out by the time I actually played it, but it it felt kind of like the monsters were not really that intimidating. Their presence was more scary than their actual physical form and the way that they interacted with you as the player. With that being any basis, I think with Frictional, I definitely can see it being. This is a very intense and introspective game that you can get really involved in. But the monsters are, kind of just now it's a horror game sort of deal.
Well, and to be fair, they do mix up the monsters. They do. There's variance all the way to the end. They change.
That's good.
It's Amnesia, I mean, at the same time, when Amnesia came out, Amnesia was a very different type of horror game. And since, between Amnesia and SOMA, the amount of Amnesia copycats in between have really diluted what Amnesia did that made it so scary. So now when it's in Soma, it's like we've played this so many times, the monster encounters are just like, all right, I get it. Let's just move on. I'm ready.
So with that in mind, then, would you say that Soma would probably reach Amnesia levels of success if it were to come out, you know, like just replace Amnesia with Soma in that release window? Do you see it blowing up the way Amnesia did?
I think Soma's going to do really well because it's from Frictional.
Yeah.
Well, and because of the setting. I mean, you know,
the setting's great. The
part
story's
Bioshock,
great.
part System Shock. You know, it's got all the Amnesia elements. I mean, you could very much tell it's a Frictional game.
The polish
the story has depth, though.
Yeah, and the story scared me way more than the monsters ever did.
That's the real horror is in the story and like what is going on.
If you played, anyone who's listening, if you've not, like, first off, try to not spoil yourself on. Well, you already are listening to us, but
we're keeping it pretty clean, right?
Pretty light on it.
We're protecting a lot of stuff, but go into it and explore everything, read everything. Like that, it's so important to do that. If you just try to race through it, you're going to miss out on so much.
Yep.
I feel like if you haven't spent some time like reading some philosophy stuff, there's a good chance that there are some themes in this that you may have never thought of or considered. Yeah. And they present them to you in a way that's pretty original for a video game that I haven't really seen done very well in the past. And there are some stumbling points. And like we said a few times, the monsters feel to me sort of like a phase that they've presented as sort of like a stumbling block, right? Like the way they want you to find a key for a thing, there is now a monster that the key is you get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But thematically, the monsters are there for a reason. And when you get to the end of it, although you might have been frustrated for a few moments, you feel like those actually had a valid place in the game.
Yeah. And it was worth it.
I thought you were going to give us, like, homework for a second there. I thought you were going to say, now, if you haven't done any philosophical reading before you play Soma, I'm going to need you to pick up on some of that first.
I actually said that during my stream. I felt like I was going back. I had this one philosophy course in college where we talked about reality and existence and stuff like that.
That's a one too. It was awesome.
Yeah, this game will get in your head, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that. It was. I'll put it this way. I know some people say like, "Oh, screw walking simulators." Like that might be a big turnoff for them. But System Shock 2 was also a very, very scary sci-fi game that had combat. I like Soma just as much as I like System Shock 2. Like, Soma is one of the best games I've played for a long time. Despite, you know, there's not really direct combat. You're not shooting guns.
Yeah.
Whatever else. But
I like that.
It's an awesome
I like looking at walking simulators as sort of a platform for excellent writing to shine through.
Yes,
because it does rely on that really heavily.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I mean, like, if you were really into... Like, what I love about it is it deals with the philosophical question of what do you define as life? And if you did take a philosophy, it really deals with the ship of Theseus kind of thing. Like I don't know if you know what the ship of Theseus is.
No idea.
So the ship of Theseus, it basically deals with the ship. This guy's ship. It's his ship. It's its prize ship. And over the years, it gets beat up.
But what is it, though, is what I'm curious about. Is it a ship?
Go back to, like, explain, like, on 5 mode for a second.
It gets beat up over time. Shut the fuck up. It gets beat up over time, and over time, he's replacing parts of the ship with newer parts, better parts. And then by the end of the years he's used it, is it still the same ship? Or is it a whole new ship because you've replaced so many parts with it? And that, I mean, Soma kind of deals with that.
Well, they almost directly spell that out, actually, in the story.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, and even, you know, critics of cybernetics and whatnot, that, you know, people who predict it's going to be part of our future. If you start replacing your body or even your mind, at what point are you no longer human? Like, you know,
oh God, we're getting way too deep now, man. This is that kind of podcast.
It's about, man.
Yeah, but that's what the game is. Yeah.
If 51% of you is machine, are you still human? If 80% of you is machine, are you still human? Like,
if you take away mortality, are you still human?
Yeah,
man.
So it gets in your head.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like it.
I've been really looking forward to talking with people about the ending, and I'm kind of sad that we can't do it right here because it would be a huge discredit to the game.
Do we dare have like a 5-minute block where we forewarn everyone listening? Like, all right, we're about to really heavily spoil everything.
I think there's some really cool discussions to be had, but I wouldn't want to spoil it.
Let's get out of the call.
I know, no, you can't ruin the ending.
We can't do it just by virtue of Mathis being here. Okay. Yeah. Maybe another day.
Did you have any really like parts that you were like, this is really annoying, or like I really hate this part?
Just the monsters, man. Yeah. And I don't even hate it. I don't even think they're terrible. They stop me from doing what I want to do, which is explore more.
It'll be worth it though. And
no,
also,
I don't doubt it.
Mathis, I need to ask you, when you're at a movie and the end credits roll, what do you do?
I always sit through them.
Okay.
Of course.
I do it with every game too, even though 90% of them don't have anything after.
Some people get up and they just leave, and then like I don't understand.
Man, Marvel movies should have trained you by now to stay through.
Every Marvel movie,
you should stay through the credits for Marvel movies.
Yeah.
If I go and see like freaking The Age of Adeline or something, what am I like? Live gonna pop out of the screen at the end and be like, "See you next December."
I always sit through everyone just in case.
Dude, all those hidden after-credit Medea movie secrets, those are good.
Oh, yeah. Tyler Perry really knows how to keep the story going after the credits roll, I'll tell you what.
Sorry, before you close this, I just wanted to say there were a couple of incongruities that I saw. There were some moments where I felt like the writing actually didn't make sense for a second. There was some tonal stuff where I felt like the two main characters that were talking to each other maybe didn't make sense in the way they're reacting to things. I thought that was a little silly.
The voice acting,
it was usually good.
It's pretty good, yeah. There's
a couple of weird parts.
Yeah.
Does it give more credibility to the voice actors union strike? Is that the most important aspect? We won't have to talk about that.
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah.
There was one puzzle that I thought was kind of intentionally misleading, where it told you to do a thing, and then if you actually follow the directions, it won't accomplish the puzzle, which I thought was really weird. But I'd have to.
One?
Is it? It was like 3/4 through the game, so I don't really want to say. But we can talk later.
Sounds like a magic tutorial style issue, huh?
It was
can't do
odd,
it.
unless I just misunderstood it, which I'm sure my commenters will tell me about when I get to it. But I really don't think I did. Anyway, overall, I think it's a pretty good game, and I think if you approach it from a sci-fi angle more than a horror angle, you'll like it.
Yeah, agreed. Holy.
$30 on Steam. Soma by Frictional Games. Sounds pretty good. And we move on to everybody's favorite segment. It's Ask Roundtable. Oh, that's the wrong one. There it is. Ask Roundtable. Everybody, if you want to submit questions to Ask Roundtable, you can do so by submitting them via email to roundtableyt@gmail.com. We have a pretty big backlog, though, actually. So I'm gonna say keep sending them in, but I apologize if it's a while till we get to your question. For example, this question comes from August 20th, and it's from Mika. And I think I mispronounced your name because you are from Holland. Thank you for listening from Holland, by the way. That's fucking awesome.
We live in the age of the internet, Bear. They could be listening from anywhere.
I know, but it's still so cool, man.
If they were on the ISS or something,
I'm never gonna lose that childlike wonder of realizing that somebody's watching something I do from like Japan. It's so cool. Mika wants to know if you guys could choose one game where they should definitely make a sequel. What game would it be? Why that game? And what should be changed and what should be kept the same from the previous game? So I've given these guys a heads up on this question because I wanted them to have some time to think about it, and I think they've had that time now. I'm going to start with Nick.
All right. I've actually mentioned this in another episode, I think, but I would actually really love to see a complete remake and overhaul of Shout of the Colossus.
Oh, no!
Is that yours?
That's mine. Oh,
sorry,
all right.
we didn't talk about them prior.
I'll think about mine. Okay, you
The
keep
Last
going.
Guardian is gonna be the sequel.
No,
to
it's
Shadow of the
not.
Colossus.
No,
It's gonna be
no,
the
no,
same
no.
world.
Yeah,
Nick, you
premise.
take this train and roll with it, dude, because
right.
I want this too. I definitely want this.
I got a lot of heat because I thought that Shadow of the Colossus was not the best game that I think it could have been. I had some issues with the controls and the camera. And in general, I think it was fantastic for what they did at the time. But I think that the game could be so much more if they lifted some of the technical constraints and maybe filled in some of the back catalog of all the Colossi that should have been available had they not run out of time and or budget. Because I believe they were scheduled to have 30 and it ended up at, what, 22 or 18 or something like that?
There were 16 total at the
16,
end. Yeah.
all right. So, like, doubling the content in the game would be awesome. And the exposition moments were very few and far between, and I think there were some good elements there that they could have run with if they wanted to expand the game in general. Not to mention and I know they wanted a stark atmosphere, but if there were a couple of little things to run into, if you truly explored the world, would have been great. I know there's lizards, I know there's totem pole things to climb up. Just a little bit more. It was so close. I'm sure I can. But it had so much great potential, and it just didn't quite make it there for me. I just want to see it be the thing that I think it could be in my head.
You know what? I'm hopping on board with you because there's nothing I want more than this, actually, if we're talking about this particular question. I actually totally empathize with everything you're saying, by the way. As a guy who has repeatedly said that Shadow of the Colossus is my #1 favorite game of all time, the controls are not that great. They're really not. They could use some work. And like you said, they had a huge vision for the game off the onset of development. They had something. I mean, you can look at the wiki pages for Shadow of the Colossus. They have concept art and quotes from developers who were saying, yeah, we had all these amazing ideas. We had these incredibly vivid, detailed concepts of Colossi that just didn't make the cut at the end of the day. And I would just love to see a next gen, just fully fleshed out, tons of different colossi to fight. I'd love to see something like twice the size of the previous game, if not bigger, because we can do that now easily. Yeah. I don't know if people are just afraid to touch it again because it's so iconic, but it would just be so good to see something like that again.
I also have to qualify. I played it on PS3. I know this comes up a lot when I say that the controls weren't great. Apparently, the PS3 remaster was not as good for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. On the PS2, it wasn't that great either.
Well, if I didn't qualify, someone would probably call me out. So I just wanted to say it.
No, it needed some work on both sides. Yeah, that's ours, I guess. Ohmwrecker, how about you? What do you think?
Yes. Well, I think I'm going to have to go with System Shock 2. I know that technically that was a sequel, and I was mulling around Generals, CNC Generals, Alpha Centauri, Civilization Revolution. There's a bunch of games I'd love to see a sequel for, but System Shock 2, especially after having played Soma.
I was going to say that probably gave you the itch, didn't it?
Well, and here's the other thing, too, right? Like, System Shock 1 was a much different game than what System Shock 2 was. Like, System Shock 2 added way more when it comes to story. And has anyone in here played through System Shock 2? I'm just curious.
I have, but it's been years, so I don't remember hardly anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had initially a male AI that was talking to you, and as you progressed, things started to get corrupt with the AI. You eventually met Shodan. Also, you come to find out that there was an organic problem that was happening. You know, again, Soma, there was a lot of similarities there, but it was an amazing game, like amazing story. It had the combat. It wasn't just a walking simulator. It had all these, other elements you could hack. You had like psi weapons.
RPGs,
you could use
skill trees and such.
Yeah, and inventory management. Like, it was an amazing game, and it's blown my mind actually consistently because BioShock, right, when that was kind of getting hyped and all that, it released. It got great reviews. And even back then, I was thinking, like, okay, now somebody's got to make a new System Shock. Like, look, BioShock, like, people still want these games. But nothing happened. BioShock 2 came out, BioShock Infinity. Now we've got Soma. Whoever owns the rights to System Shock 2 needs to do something with it because it's such an awesome franchise. Like, seriously. And for, changing or keeping things the same, it's hard to say. Like, I don't think it needs multiplayer or anything. I almost feel like as a game, it was fantastic as is. Obviously, update the visuals, get some better sound effects, whatnot, some orchestral music or whatever else. But for the most part, like, they could carry on that story. I remember beating it and feeling like they could absolutely do more with it because of the way it ended. It was left open, I think, for a sequel. And that's what I'd go with.
Nice.
I mean, anything's possible. They went and did XCOM. Look how popular that is now.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
Same era.
Yeah.
All right, exactly. Ryan, what do you want?
Splinter Cell Blacklist.
Yes. I'm on board with that.
The confidence with which you said that was admirable.
My answer is my prediction that Mathis is going to say Red Dead Redemption.
You are incorrect.
Oh,
that would have been great too, though.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see an RDR, but yeah. No.
Okay, well, I'll take that as half right. Anyway, I wasn't being facetious. People want the answers, I think, that are like, not from a franchise. It's like an original game that wasn't really appreciated when it came out. All right, I can be that guy. If you want me to hit the talking points, where's the Beyond Good and Evil?
No, you don't have to be that guy, man. We got 4 other guys.
No, I need to be that guy, Bear. Somebody needs to be that guy, all right?
Yeah.
Where's the Rez sequel? Stuff like that. I can be that.
We don't need a Rez
Dark
sequel,
Cloud
man.
3?
Who wants a sequel to Rez?
Yeah, we don't
Everybody
need
wants a sequel to Rez.
They got one in the Kinect game.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a sequel. That's a pseudo-sequel.
And some people would say Dark Cloud 2 was perfect.
What game with a pseudo-sequel do you want to see get a real sequel? I have anyway. Yeah, I would love to see a new Splinter Cell Blacklist game, and it has the extra kind of like indignity of being one of the only Ubisoft properties to not be iterated on, like, to put it politely, iterated into the ground. And they chose the wrong one because it's the best one in my opinion, at least from recent years. I'd love to see a new Splinter Cell Blacklist.
They had to get the towers in, and they couldn't figure out how to do it, so they just
dropped this franchise.
I can agree with that. That's very worthy. All around, single player and multiplayer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right, Mathis.
I want to see Assassin's Creed.
What?
Don't you fucking do it, man.
Nobody believed you for a damn second.
So what I want to see a sequel in is I did a video on this like 2 years ago, back when I was doing like a series called Killed in Action. This is Majesco's final AAA publishing game that they did before they stopped doing them. Advent Rising.
Really?
Anybody played Advent Rising?
That is a very unexpected choice.
Yeah, definitely. Hold on a second here.
What was Advent Rising about again?
So Advent Rising was a story about it was like semi in the future. Aliens came and like started wiping out.
It's Mass Effect before Mass Effect.
Oh, it's on Steam.
It's on Steam. Aliens came and started wiping out humanity, and these other aliens came and tried to save us. And the reason they were wiping out humanity is because it was found that humans had the potential to become the most powerful, like, psychic beings in the universe. The story was written by Orson Scott Card, I do believe.
Whoa!
And it was planned to be a trilogy, but the gameplay wasn't great, and the budget that was spent in making it was not made back. It didn't make the money that they were hoping it was going to make. And after that other game that Majesco published that kind of flopped, that was good. What was it?
Every game.
Yeah,
Majesco published.
True. But the one with that they just did a Kickstarter for it. Not for that game, but the company did
Super Caesar's Palace.
No, it's about the psychic. Raz is like he's the main character of the game. Fuck.
I just want to mention that Majesco.
You mean Legacy of Kain?
No.
Raz?
I'm looking.
Majesco
Camping Mama? Was it Camping Mama?
No. Was not.
Majesco did publish the Sharknado iOS game, by the way, so they're not all failures.
Serious?
Yeah.
Psychonauts. They published Psychonauts.
Oh
yeah.
Failed. Of course I knew that.
That failed, and then they published this game, and then this one failed, and that was the end of it.
I can't believe. Can we just talk about how Double Fine still exists and is very known?
Yeah.
The way you chose to get the Double Fine was
I couldn't think
Raz is the main character of this game that was published by Majesco, and they just did a Kickstarter.
I failed a Double Fine's name. Anyway.
It's like when you have a beacon on a map in a video game, but you haven't found the map yet, so you're just like walking into the ether. You're like, that's the right destination.
Yeah,
but
I was going there. It's a weird way. But I loved Advent Rising. I loved the story. It had 2 different endings. It was one of those games that was be like, depending on the ending you have.
Oh, yeah.
Like the second game. It was a planned trilogy. And it was one of the very first games where the mechanic of the more you do something, the better your character gets at it. Like that leveling system of if you use a lot of guns, you're gonna become more accurate. If you use a lot of this particular psychic ability, it gets higher and better in levels. Yeah. And I really liked that a lot. And I never got to see. They left off on a huge cliffhanger, and I never got to see a sequel. And I would have loved to see it.
Yeah. Wasn't there a big gimmick around their multiplayer mode? I remember some like sticker on the box that I kept shelving at GameStop.
Oh, you're right. No, it wasn't. Like,
that's the only thing that I remembered it by.
There wasn't a multiplayer mode. There was a $1 million.
That was this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
I remember this.
What?
Yeah. It was like some weird $1 million.
All I remember is a ton of money, and I was like, nobody's buying this game.
Advent Rising cancels $1 million contest.
Yeah, they had to cancel it. That's
what?
Right.
They didn't make $1 million to give.
The Rising game was the race to save mankind, which would give one talented Xbox Live player $1 million. Unfortunately, news came out today. This is an article from 2005. News came out today that Majesco is canceling the contest due to no technically feasible solution that would allow the contest to continue in a fair and secure manner.
Wait, was it the first person to get to something?
It must have been, yeah.
Okay,
sounds like somebody hacked it.
Well, yeah, like leaks and also press copies like could have totally screwed that over, or even corrupt employees at game stores or whatever else like that. There's no way to do that, right?
For those who did try, yeah, you're basically right. For those who did try the contest and want something for their efforts, Majesco is offering a choice of 2 free games for those that send in their game's UPC and a copy of the user's Xbox Live gamer tag.
I mean, they tried.
Yeah.
Pretty good compensatory choices, though. You get Blood Rain 2, Guilty Gear X2 Reload, Psychonauts, Phantom Dust.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Yep. That's my game at memorizing.
Good stuff. That is it for Ask Roundtable. Thank you, Mika, for your question. And again, if you want to send in your questions, that is roundtableyt@gmail.com. And now, time for everybody's favorite segment. It's Nick's Weird Games. Woo!
What's our music theme?
What is our music thing? How about some
EDM.
Oh, you go EDM on him now.
We're going to TwitchCon.
Oh, so Ohmwrecker, if you're not familiar, we do the Nick's Weird Games segment every show. What this is was Nick is going to go find a weird game from his collection. He's going to give us some hints about it based on the back of the box, the publisher, the year it was released, all that kind of stuff, and we're going to try to guess what it is. But every time we do it, we have a new Nick's Weird Game theme song performed by the one and only Ryan Northern Lion of the Torno. So,
I never really agreed to this, by the way. It just sort of became an expected thing. It's like I got a job just by showing up every day, and they're like, all right.
If you've got the audacity to sing at this job that you're showing up for, then man, you've got the sky on your mind. Let's go with U2.
Is U2? I thought we were doing EDM.
Do you want to do EDM? I can let you.
Not really. I don't want to do any of it, to be honest with you.
You guys work it out. I'll be over here.
If you could do one impression of a singer-songwriter, what would it be?
Probably be like, I guess it would be U2. Now you got me.
All right, do
The
it.
floor is
All
yours.
right, it'd be like, early morning, September 29th, Nick gets up to his weird game shelf.
Oh, okay.
What game here will he bring from the PS2 era from Japan? It is Nick's Weird Games. One more of a Nick's Weird Game. It's a Nick's Weird Game. Published by a company that is now defunct. Okay.
Very frequently true.
Good. Oh, that was great.
Well done.
All right.
Enjoyed that quite a bit.
Here we go.
All right. I've got a weird game for you today, and it
Yeah.
is not a PS2 game, and it is also not published by Atlas. So,
Fun.
yeah, seeing as you guys have been having a lot of trouble with them, we're opening it up to a slightly less niche game. So I think you'll maybe...
Time Machine sponsorship ran out.
All right. I have a feeling probably very quickly one of you will get this one, but good luck. Today's game is an Xbox original game. Okay. And
it's that game where you roll around on balls and try to knock each other out of the arena.
Fusion Frenzy. No, that is not what it is. But
Damn it. All right.
I didn't say it was a launch title for it.
Yeah, but I thought you would be going that route.
Fusion
I
Frenzy
tried to
was
read your mind.
fantastic.
It was really fun.
If you nailed it there, that would have been very impressive.
Yeah.
Fusion Frenzy fucking sucks.
Whatever, man. Fuck
No way.
you. This guy that doesn't like local split screen, I'm starting to see. He doesn't even like fun.
Fusion Frenzy is a piece of shit.
No.
Doesn't Josh love
It
it?
was. Huh?
Josh or Mike?
Oh, yeah, I bet he only doesn't like it because Josh loves it. Come on,
Yeah, I
let's
think
go.
that's
GameSpot gave it a 6.7 out of 10.
Fuck GameSpot. You can't spell ignorant without GameSpot.
That's true. They use the same letters.
All right, ready? This was developed by Microsoft Game Studios, released in Japan in 2004, North America 2005, classified as action strategy. It had both single and multiplayer. Now I'm going to read a bit from the back of the box.
Phantom
It's that dragon game.
Is
Fuck.
it Halo Wars?
Oh!
Got it.
What was
Panzer
it?
Dragoon?
Phantom
No,
Dust.
Phantom
That's
Dust.
it.
I didn't have to
Phantom
read a
Dust.
single thing from the box.
Phantom
We just
Dust.
read
What
about
the
Majesco, man.
I know, and I picked the game before we started.
Oh
so
my
you
God! Wow!
Put it together.
Look at that! We did it.
There
I
we
never
go.
even heard of Phantom Dust.
Hey.
There was supposed to be didn't they recently announce
Okay,
a sequel
well-
and they just canned it recently?
So that was the part that I said to Bear before we started recording that
Yeah.
I learned something. At E3 2014, a Phantom Dust remake was announced for Xbox One. In 2015, the development studio working on the game shut down. Microsoft
Whoa.
indicated development may proceed with a different team, and that's as far as that story has gotten.
AKA, we will
never see Phantom Dust.
Yeah.
Have you
sequel.
guys seen the fucking cover for this game?
Phantom
The
Dust.
game was actually pretty good. I
This
played
is like
it a
a
lot.
blast from the past right here.
Yeah.
Look at that. If you saw that in a game store.
Oh my God! You can't even
It's
read
like
the
that.
name of the game on there.
Imagine Magic the Gathering, but like an action game where
Yeah.
you're running around an arena
Yeah.
casting spells at each other. It's
That-
not badass.
That's how I feel a lot of my earliest thumbnails looked on YouTube.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's really
I
good.
can relate.
Instead of live enabled, it's like YouTube enabled.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
man.
anything else on Xbox, and then it says Ohm at the bottom. Oh, no, it's OXM.
God.
All right, we got a point. Hey,
You got a point. It's been like 10 weeks since
Well
you
done.
I'm the only one who's guessed any of these games.
Hey, man,
true.
we were all on the same team with Phantom Dust. I think we
I
were going to
believe
get
you
that
would have
one.
all gotten it eventually if I kept going.
Mention-
That was the point.
As soon as you mentioned cards, I'm sure.
You get Fusion Frenzy on this one of these days, man.
I don't
just
know.
play
Fusion
Fusion
Frenzy.
Jump on it.
Frenzy.
Yeah, let's just play Fusion Frenzy on the next Roundtable stream. That'll be good.
I don't want to talk about
I'm
Fusion
pretty salty. Guys.
Why don't you like Fusion Frenzy?
Sorry, Brian. We
Edward
can play
Snowden-
Blood Bowl if you want.
Edward Snowden joined Twitter.
Yeah.
He already has
What?
more followers than me.
Wow.
Not only does he have Twitter, I opened up one of his tweets and the first reply I saw was "Daddy."
No way.
Yep.
That is
What?
actually really good.
It's
That's
funny.
a very odd parallel.
Also, Kappa Guy follows me on Twitter now.
Oh, snap.
What? Damn,
Wow.
they're famous, dude.
How did you make that happen,
I
Mathis?
followed him and he followed me back.
Oh, is he just giving out follow for follows now?
What? All right, hold on.
Sorry.
What's his
We're all
handle? I gotta
following
get follow
Kappa
now.
Game.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow him from the
Uh-oh.
Roundtable account.
Is
How
it
do you
gray
find him?
face, no
I
space?
got you. Hang on a second.
What is he?
I'm not gonna follow him 'cause
Kappa.
I don't. He's a person. I don't think his existence
There
is
you
a
go.
joke.
Kappa, Kappa, Kappa.
All right, that is Nick's Weird Games. We finally managed to point that time. That was
You
great.
win.
Oh my god! And that is gonna do it for this episode of the Roundtable Podcast. Thank you very much, Ohmwrecker, for joining us. That was a fun time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Go
Had a
check
great
out all of Ohmwrecker's videos over on youtube.com/maskedgamer. A lot of fun multiplayer content over there. You can also check us out on iTunes. You can rate the show 5 stars. You can download it from there, as well as SoundCloud. And you can subscribe to the subreddit. It is a Roundtable Podcast subreddit. Roundtablepodcast.reddit.com, and there is the @RoundtablePC Twitter account. We were live with the patrons last week. I was not there because I suck, but the next stream should be on the 6th of October. And following that, actually, look out for some changes, more than likely coming to the stream as well as just the podcast in general. We'll have Nick will be going away for a little leave of absence for a couple of weeks. So I think you'll actually only miss one podcast, right?
Yeah, it's just one.
Okay.
We're canceling the podcast.
Yeah, just due to the inconvenience of Nick being gone for one episode, we decided, yeah, you know what, fuck it. Let's just
No Nick's Weird
stop.
Games, no podcast.
Pretty much. Yeah, and that should just about do it. Also, want to thank our patrons for this episode. You can go to patreon.com/roundtable. If you're considering supporting the podcast in any way, shape, or form, we, of course, still have that goal up there for $2,500 a month for the weekly transformation. Still available. Oh, God, this totally changed. Uh-oh. Stall while I find out how to find the patron list again. Somebody say something. Hurry.
Something.
Who wants to play Phantom Dust?
It doesn't
do.
work anymore. I would probably say
It
yes.
says Xbox Live enabled.
Yeah, they took down original Xbox stuff though.
Son of a bitch.
If they put it on Steam, I would totally play it with you.
I
They
would
took away my
play.
damn dashboard.
Why do you guys always
Why
try
would
to
they
live
do
in the
that?
past?
They took
Or
away
not.
your dashboard?
Yeah. They got rid of everything I used. Oh my god. Okay, here we go. We got it. All right. Thank you very much to our patrons for this episode. It is Max Pill and Positron, Alexander Spillman, Grizzlies Review, Christopher Flagg, Jonathan Graham, Julian Avelsgaard, Kevin Birkland, Caspian Crawdad, Matt, David Bradley, Air Force Balls, General Crunk, Jeff Rush, Casey Zur, Kevin ran out of ideas, Walker, Ignacio0891, Brizzlebrip, Justin, Logan Ray, Smurfette, Matthew Monahan, Jamie's Heineman, Johannes Golden, and Alice Rathbone. I only hesitated because there was an apostrophe in that name. But anyway, thank you so much to all of our patrons as well as to you for listening/watching to the Roundtable Podcast. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.